So Israeli media is reporting that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made a secret visit to Saudi Arabia. According to these reports, Netanyahu met the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, and the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who himself was in Israel only last week. This follows recent Washington-brokered normalisation deals between Israel, the UAE and Bahrain. Harry Fawcett's following this one from Ramallah today in the occupied West Bank. Any confirmation or denial either way, Harry?
No denial and no official confirmation, but the lack of denial is pretty telling, especially given the fact that this isn't just one report. It has been pretty widely sourced by a number of Israeli political journalists and indeed the Prime Minister's own social media advisor put out a tweet saying that while Netanyahu's coalition partner was playing politics, the Prime Minister was making peace. Now, no explicit confirmation of this particular visit or potential talks with Mohammed bin Salman in that tweet, but the timing was relatively significant. It all came from initial reports that a business jet that had been used by the Prime Minister in the past, that is leased from an Israeli businessman for such high-level trips, was spotted making a journey from Israel, from Tel Aviv airport, at around 5 p.m. local time on Sunday. It spent some 5 hours on the tarmac at this Red Sea resort in Saudi Arabia before coming back. At the same time, there was supposed to be a coronavirus cabinet meeting carried out in the Israeli government. That was postponed for reasons that were said to be about a lack of preparation on a digital mitigation campaign. But that is now being reported as having been a cover for what really took place, which is, according to these reports, that the Prime Minister had gone to meet both Secretary of State Pompeo, US Secretary of State, and Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, in Saudi territory. Now, it's very rare that this would be tacitly, well, perhaps saying tacitly acknowledged is a bit too far, but certainly not denied, and certainly apparently reported pretty widely. Does it mean full normalisation with Saudi is on the cards? Presumably not yet. It was just 2 days ago that the Saudi foreign minister was saying that there would have to be a Palestinian state first, something that Saudi Arabia still ascribes to, despite the fact that the UAE, Bahrain and Sudan have now moved away from that position. We put this to a couple of senior Palestinian officials. One said that they pointed to that remark from the foreign minister, but said at the same time there are no guarantees. Another said that they couldn't comment on it without official confirmation, but said if it had taken place, this meeting, then it would be heartbreaking.
When we look at it in the context, Harry, of the previous deals, as you say, the UAE and Bahrain already. Now, Israel and the UAE, we know, were already had a relationship behind the scenes, as it were. Is there any feeling that that exists with Saudi Arabia as well, and that that can contribute to any further normalisation?
Oh, very much so. The Israelis and the Saudis have been having sort of clandestine contacts for many years. And so, as I say, I think the difference about this one is how quickly it has come to light and how little effort appears to be underway to try to conceal it in retrospect or even, certainly not deny that it took place. It's also in the context of what we still presume to be the last few weeks of the Trump administration, at a time when both the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, has been going around various US allies trying to do what he can in the last few weeks, specifically in terms of Israel, presumably to try to circumscribe the room for action for an incoming Biden administration. He did that in terms of declaring the anti-occupation movement, BDS, as anti-Semitic. As far as the United States was concerned, also saying that all settlement-made goods would be declared as Israeli as far as the US market is concerned. Those are both things that Biden would have to explicitly unpick, and could be difficult for him to do so. The question is there something similar brewing with Saudi Arabia? Is this about what Netanyahu wants to do to try to circumscribe US action versus Iran? Certainly he's sent a very public message to Joe Biden saying that going back to the 2015 Iran nuclear deal would be a mistake. So I think it's unlikely that we're going to see full normalisation between Saudi Arabia and Israel before Trump leaves office. But it certainly can be seen in terms of those wider efforts to try to shore up what 4 years of Trump has meant in terms of foreign policy.
Thank you, Harry Fawcett. The news, or reports at least, of Prime Minister Netanyahu visiting Saudi Arabia.